Welcome to Hannity, and tonight we are less than 1 week away from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois, where party leaders will officially nominate a candidate who receives 0% of the primary votes after party elites involved in a coup completely disenfranchised Democratic primary voters. But not long ago, Kamala Harris was persona non grata in the Democratic Party and among so-called journalists in the state-run Pravda media mob. This is a November 2022 headline. Let's take a look. Not exactly a conservative publication at Slate. Quote, if Biden runs again, he should pick a new VP. And this from New York Magazine a year later, 2023, quote, the case for Biden to drop Kamala Harris. Here's another headline, Politico, quote, columnists call for Biden to drop Harris and pick a new running mate. Kamala was routinely mocked on both sides of the aisle and in the media for her embarrassing word salads about the passage of time, etc. And anyway, her poll numbers were consistently at or near record lows. I expect they will be again. Kamala's own staff reportedly hated her, ridiculed the vice president's work ethic and character, and her track record as border czar and on inflation and Afghanistan is devastating. Now she's the second coming. You turn on the TV, pick up a newspaper, Democrats, their mouthpieces in the media, well, they're not telling us. That's it. Here it is. You know, it's the rapture. A competent, likable person full of joy and hope and unburdened by the past and what has been. 4 years of complete incompetence automatically replaced with fresh new ideas and very moderate beliefs. She almost sounds like me, conservative. The entire Harris campaign, the whole thing, America needs to understand. What we are watching is an illusion. It is a lie. It's built on a mountain of lies. If anyone in the media mob told the truth about who Kamala Harris and her running mate, who they are, and they played their extremism in their own words, and people were fully informed about what she truly believes, what she has said she believes, the vice president would lose in a landslide this November. In 2019, she couldn't even make it to Iowa in the Democratic primary. She was too radical, too extreme, even for Democratic primary voters. Now, think about this. As a candidate for president, she vowed to ban fracking, offshore drilling. She promised to confiscate guns, mandatory gun buyback program from all of you, law-abiding American citizens, and end cash bail for those who broke the law. She co-sponsored the socialist $93 trillion Green New Deal in the U.S. Senate. She was the sponsor and promised to ram that through Congress and, use the filibuster and get rid of that and change the rules. She also promised to decriminalize illegal immigration, force you to cover the bill for health care, housing, food, education for anybody that enters our country illegally. And Kamala even co-sponsored a Medicare for All bill with our fellow socialist Bernie Sanders and declared that she would eliminate all private health insurance. I know, you think I make this up? I don't. Here's her, in her own words. Take a listen.
How important is it to your health care plan to get rid of private insurance companies? Because there's some confusion about that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. So the bottom line and the most important is that everyone have access to health care. That is the goal. That is the purpose for me supporting the policy of Medicare for all. If Congress votes in a way that reflects the values and the desires of the American people, then Congress would vote for a policy that gives everyone access to health care.
In other words, Kamala Harris wanted to model our health care system after Cuba and North Korea. So does Kamala Harris still want to take away all private health insurance? Does she still want to turn your health care system into a single-payer, government-run hellscape? By the way, how's that keep your doctor plan and save, on average, $2,500 a year working? Millions of Americans lost their doctors and their plans, and nobody's saving money. You're paying about 300% more. On top of the promise of Social Security and Medicare, they're both headed towards insolvency. And how's that post office working out for you? Anyway, probably she's not going to say what she won't say what she believes, or even list a position on her website. Instead, a campaign aide. We keep hearing from these anonymous campaign aides of Kamala Harris indicating off camera that she won't now push for Medicare for all, another flip-flop flail. And meanwhile, we know if we tell you the truth about her real beliefs, she would have no chance of winning. So they will try to lie their way to the presidency with the help of the media mob and hide behind anonymous campaign aides. And Kamala has suddenly now backed away from nearly every single left-wing radical position she has deeply held. She can't win being who she is. So they got to get rid of all that stuff, all the things she actually said and believes and would do if she ever gets power. Again, Democrats know Kamala will lose in a landslide if their candidate were to be honest about who she truly is and what she truly believes. But it's not only her radical, extreme, dangerous beliefs that Democrats are trying to memory hole here. It's also her horrific track record. Everywhere Kamala has gone, failure and suffering has followed. The vice president now says that she will bring down the cost on day one and get rid of inflation on day one. Only problem is day one was over 1,300 days ago, and she was telling us inflation's transitory like everybody else. Now, she is the second in command. She's the vice president of the country. She played a very important role in policy decisions. She even gleefully cast the tie-breaking vote in that massive government spending bill, the Inflation Reduction Act. Remember, without her, it doesn't pass. And that's paid for in part with taxes from tips on other low-income and service workers around the country. Now, she says she's going to get rid of taxing tips. If Kamala really wanted to end taxes on tips, well, why did she single-handedly increase them in office? Kamala caused inflation along with Joe, and in 3 years, she has utterly failed to bring any prices down. And now Americans, they are suffering. Half the country now is gulping water, pretty much basically unable to pay their bills every month. Take a look.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
Who do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children. They're killing us without killing us. If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children and I don't, but I have to go work.
That is representative of such a large percentage of the country. And it's not just inflation. Remember, Kamala's the border czar, or at least that's what the media was calling her when she wasn't running for president. Either way, here are the fruits of her labor. Pain and suffering and chaos like this country has never seen before. We have terrorists we know that have waltzed into our country, and they're plotting and planning and scheming another 9/11 or worse. You know, you have 1 out of every 5 hotels in New York City, the hellhole that is, filled with illegal immigrants. Compliments of you. You're paying for those hotels. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being taken away from your families, given to people who break our laws, disrespect our borders and sovereignty. Every week we hear another story about a senseless rape and assault, murder carried out by an unvetted Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, illegal immigrant that they aided and abetted into the country. This week we had an illegal immigrant from Haiti charged with raping a child in Massachusetts. How many more kids are going to get raped? What about a 13-year-old in broad daylight, videotaped in a park in Queens, New York in daylight? What about Jocelyn Nungary? You know, brutalized for 2 hours, murdered in Houston, Texas? What about mother of 5, Rachel Morin? What about Laken Riley? Not Lincoln, Joe, Laken Riley. You know, before the alleged rape, by the way, in this case, was flown directly into the U.S. through an insane Biden-Harris program that helps illegals bypass the border. After all, it was beginning to look too bad, and they were taking a lot of heat for it. So let's sneak them in the dark at night and fly them into obscure airports in the country. This illegal immigrant was released on a $500 bond by a left-wing radical judge before getting picked up by ICE, a department that Kamala Harris wanted to abolish, and of course also compared to the KKK. In New York, another illegal immigrant was charged with rape this week after purportedly assaulting a 46-year-old woman at knife point under the boardwalk at Coney Island in Brooklyn, New York, in front of her boyfriend. But don't worry, in a new ad, the border czar is now promising to fix the border if elected president. Why didn't she fix it the last 4 years? Why did she lie and say the border's closed and the border's secure? Why did Mayorkas lie? Why did Biden lie? Why did Karine Jean-Pierre and Circle Back Jen lie? The sheriff who was used as a prop in that ad is now speaking out against Vice President Harris. Take a look.
Well, I can tell you here in California, we're ready for someone that's going to support law enforcement. Kamala Harris and law enforcement in California, we're very familiar with her and how she has done over the course of years as a senator and as a prosecutor and as the attorney general. And I can tell you that this ad is deceiving, to say the least. So for me in law enforcement to see my face and image along with my law enforcement counterparts being represented as standing alongside Kamala Harris was truly disheartening. We do not support Kamala Harris. She has a history of not supporting law enforcement.
Now, as Senator Cotton tweeted, quote, Kamala Harris promising to secure the border is like O.J. Simpson promising to find the real killer on the golf course, I'll add. Everything about Kamala's campaign, it is a lie. Everything is a deception. It's all smoke. It's all mirrors because she can't win being herself. The Harris campaign is even, quote, editing news headlines. Look at this. And descriptions within Google search ads to make it seem like major news organizations support her. Now, the Democrats were deeply worried about misinformation. I thought they cared about dignity and democracy being in peril. But here they are nominating a candidate without a single vote, using misinformation and deception to prop up their anointed one. Anyway, according to reports, they don't even want Hollywood elites at the DNC, despite close ties to Harris. They don't want the American people. They don't want you to see who she really is, who she's really friends with. How many times have I said the Democratic Party has become the party of coastal elites? And they don't represent hardworking men and women anymore. If they did, they wouldn't allow chaos in the border. If they did, they would support law and order and safety and security and not, defund, dismantle, no bail laws. They would support energy independence so you pay less for your energy costs. They would support, sane economic policies that didn't take so much money out of your pocket. Have some self-respect, Kamala. Tell the American people, do an interview, do a gaggle, do a press conference. Tell people who you really are, what you really believe. Come out of Joe's, basement, take some questions, talk from the heart, leave the teleprompter at home. And why don't you just be honest about who you are and where you'd like to take the country? Anything less is only a glaring admission you are not capable. You are too radical to be president. And the mission, I would argue, for the Trump campaign, if they want to win, they better get this message out loudly. And then the American people will have a real choice. Early voting starts in 34 days. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.